Good to go.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this morning. You are in the Colorado Media Project information session for our round 2 of grantee funding. Oh, sorry, I realized I was on mute. Good morning, everyone. Let's try this again. You are in the webinar for our advanced, I'm Melissa Davis with the Colorado Media Project, and you're in our Advancing Equity and Local News Round 2 Grant Opportunity Information Session.
I'm Sam Moody, Colorado Media Project's Learning and Grants Manager.
Okay, great. So thank you all for being here and bearing with us with these. You think I know how to use my Zoom now with the mute and everything, but here we are in 2023. So Colorado Media Project started a little bit about who we are before we jump into the grant opportunity. Colorado Media Project has been around since 2018 when we were launched by a coalition of civic leaders from higher ed, philanthropy, nonprofits, business, and the public sector and beyond, who are concerned about the decline in local accountability journalism and community news and the negative impacts on civil society. CMP is a nonpartisan philanthropic initiative now housed at the Rose Community Foundation. And our mission is that we are dedicated to supporting people, projects, and organizations that are working to build a healthier, more equitable, solutions-focused, and sustainable local news and information ecosystem for all Coloradans. I keep going on, it keeps going to mute for some reason. We are, there are a lot of us working in collaboration together. So we wanted to take a second to just kind of unpack who CMP is and what we do within dynamic media ecosystem. First of all, we're a funder. We're a coalition of funders. We convene local and national funders. We pool resources in order to offer strategic grants and open access grants like this one to spur innovation and impact, equity, inclusion, and resilience in Colorado's local news and information ecosystem. We also serve as a catalyst, supporting and facilitating cross-sector conversations and connections that surface new approaches to address gaps in Colorado's local news and information ecosystem, combat mis and disinformation, reach broader audiences, and deepen civic participation. And we do that in partnership with other organizations like the Colorado Press Association, the Colorado News Collaborative, and the Colorado News Conservancy, and others, many of you among us. We're also an advocate in that we commission research. Some of you might have been at our recent, 2 of our recent research unveilings. And then we also share learning and leverage our collective influence to bring more knowledge, allies, and resources, and better public policies and professional practices into the movement to strengthen and reimagine local news and build a healthier, more solutions-focused public square. So just to give you an idea of our grantees, these are actually, I haven't had a chance to update our 2022 grantees on this map. So sorry if you are a current grantee and you aren't on this map, but all the grants for our open call grant opportunities, a bunch of our newsrooms are on the right. And on the left, you'll see some of our strategic grant making to kind of enhance the ecosystem, went to CoLab. We helped with the National Trust for Local News and Colorado Sun acquisition of Colorado Community Media and the creation of the Colorado News Conservancy. A while back in our history, we helped Colorado Public Radio acquire Denverite. And last year, we supported grantees with additional training from the Maynard Institute, and the Rebuild Local News Coalition worked with us, and the Colorado Press Association and others in a coalition, including like the League of Women Voters, on some public policy issues. So I'm going to hand it over to Sam, and he's going to tell you a little bit about this opportunity, which comes out of CMP's Informed Communities Fund.
Thanks, Melissa. And if you don't mind, just keeping an eye on the guest list and letting folks in if they join late. So yes, again, my name is Sam Moody. I'm the Learning and Grants Manager for the Colorado Media Project. I'm managing our Informed Communities Fund, which supports journalism outlets, community groups, and projects that put community listening and information needs at the center of the journalism process, with a special emphasis on better service to communities of color and other marginalized groups. A little bit of background on this fund. Launched in 2022 at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic with our Informed Communities Grant, which addressed gaps in COVID-19 news for underserved communities. We built on that work in 2021 with the Vaccine Equity Grant, which connected communities disproportionately impacted by the virus with accurate information on accessing vaccines and answers to their questions to address reluctance to get vaccinated from trusted community voices and local news sources. In 2022, we announced nearly $1 million in grants, split between the Advancing Equity in Local News grant program and the Community News Network newsrooms. Community News Network is a multi-year grant to 6 newsrooms to sustain and grow their service to Colorado's underserved communities over 3 years. And the Advancing Equity in Local News grant is the one we'll be talking about today. There are 2 additional rounds of Advancing Equity in Local News grants available. This one being in the fall of 22, and a final round coming in the fall of 2023. Those are for projects happening in 2023 and 2024, respectively. This fund is supported by some really excellent partners here in Colorado and across the nation: Colorado Health Foundation, Gates Family Foundation, Colorado Trust, the Democracy Fund, ourselves, and the Rose Community Foundation, our fiscal sponsor. The objectives of the Advancing Equity in Local News grant are informed by and responsive to the Voices Project led by CoLab and Free Press. These include working groups, the Black Voices Working Group, Latinx Voices Working Group, Asian American and Pacific Islander Working Group, and Native and Indigenous Voices Working Group. These are groups of community leaders, community members, journalists, folks who are passionate about the role that information and local news plays in their communities' lives, that gathered over the last 2 years, led by CoLab and Free Press, to produce recommendations for how local news in Colorado can better serve their communities. Oh, there we go. The objectives of the Advancing Equity in Local News grant are to support internal efforts to strengthen diversity, equity, and inclusion in Colorado newsrooms, to strengthen connections and build trust between Colorado newsrooms and the diverse communities they serve, and to support more diverse and inclusive civic news leadership, entrepreneurship, ownership, and narratives. At least $250,000 is expected to be available in round 2 of this grant for 2023 projects. Round 1 grant amount per project range between $5,000 and $25,000, with a few exceptions for projects that involve multiple partners or had the potential to deliver really significant impact. There were opportunities to be awarded slightly more than $25,000 at our selection committee's discretion. So let's talk through a couple of these priorities and give you some examples of what that might look like for as you consider projects and proposals for next year. Under our first priority, DEI training for newsroom leaders and reporters, content audits to examine trends in sourcing, framing, or language, leadership development for staff journalists of color or those representing diverse perspectives or abilities, and any other projects you can think of that are going to really strengthen diversity and equity and inclusion efforts within Colorado newsrooms.
I wanted to mention at this point, just we have, the great thing about this grant opportunity is that we're now in the second round. You can actually go to our website and see the types of things that we funded last year. So within this we have 3 priority areas. And within this priority area, we did support a lot of DEI training. It's really focused at the newsroom level. And we were able to add on, because a lot of newsrooms were kind of needing basic, like what we kind of think of as like 101 level DEI support. We were able to partner with the Maynard Institute to offer some cohort-based DEI training. And then our grantees were actually able to use their CMP grants through this opportunity to really dive deeper with their newsroom. So just a heads up to make sure to, there's a question in the application to indicate, your team's level of need for DEI training. And so you can let us know a little bit more about what your experience is to date, and we can kind of try to keep that in mind, right? Sam, anything else you want to say on that one?
No, that's perfect. Thank you. And that is good to explain that question on the application. So appreciate it. Our next priority is to strengthen connections and build trust between Colorado newsrooms and the diverse communities they serve. Some examples of projects that would fit well under this priority include community engagement or reporting projects co-designed by newsrooms and community groups, support for public accountability boards that provide ongoing and actionable community feedback to newsrooms, and systemic approaches to connect newsrooms with expert sources, storytellers, and collaborators from diverse communities. Again, these are not, this is not a complete or exclusive list, and we look forward to hearing the kinds of ideas that you're generating with the communities you serve. Final priority is to support more diverse and inclusive civic news leadership, entrepreneurship, ownership, and narratives. A few project examples include capacity building that builds media leadership, entrepreneurship, storytelling, and/or reporting skills among journalists, content creators, and residents of color, low-income residents, or those from rural and other underserved communities. Support for media ownership transitions, innovations or growth that significantly impact communities of color, rural, or other underserved communities, and editorial projects led by and for those whose stories are not being told. Again, not exclusive. I will pause here to say, I am going to move through this presentation so we cover all this information. If you have any questions that you don't want to lose, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And we'll address them all at the end. You can also just ask me questions verbally at the end. And very much looking forward to talking through this a little bit more interactively with you once we get through this information. So who is eligible for these grants? Colorado nonprofit news organizations and small, locally owned and operated for-profit or public benefit newsrooms are qualified to apply as lead applicants. For-profit newsrooms owned by corporations or investors that serve Colorado newsrooms may access project support by applying as part of a collaborative application with the kinds of organizations that are qualified as lead applicants, those nonprofit and locally owned for-profit or public benefit newsrooms. Nonprofit community organizations that are proposing to collaborate with one or more Colorado news or media organizations are eligible to apply as well. If you're an individual or freelance journalist or media entrepreneur, we ask that you apply under a fiscal sponsor, which would be either a nonprofit or a for-profit news organization or a nonprofit community organization. And I'm happy to talk through details on fiscal sponsorship if any of you are finding yourselves in that position. Eligible applicants must be either located in Colorado or must be located in Colorado, and or the projects must primarily serve Colorado resident communities. So there are some opportunities for organizations that work outside of Colorado as well to apply, but we're looking for projects that are focused on serving Colorado communities. I am happy to see a number of current and previous CMP grantees here in the Zoom. You are very much eligible to apply for this next round of funding, including if you were a recipient of Advancing Equity and Local News funds from the first round. We just ask that in your application, you outline whether your new proposal is a continuation of that first round of work or a new project, and how those things might connect or build on each other. I will also note that if you are a current Advancing Equity in Local News grantee, you will also have a final report due same deadline as this application, December 1st. And those will also be available on the Rose Community Foundation portal. I'll show you shortly. Yeah. A couple of fine print details to go over. We asked that our applicants base the amount requested on the scope of the project. Last year, this was a very competitive grant. And while all applications need to be strong to be competitive, the larger amount of money you're requesting, the stronger the application will need to be. To that end, we really do emphasize and prioritize proposals that are able to use grants as matching funds, leveraging other resources available to you. And so in the application, we ask that you describe in your budget not just how you will use potential funding from CMP, but what the total cost of your project is and what other resources you're able to bring to bear, whether they're from your budget or staff time, in-kind contributions, or funding from other sources. Proposals that involve multiple outlets or community groups are encouraged. We love collaboration. It creates efficiencies. It helps you leverage strengths and expand your impact and include more diverse perspectives in the work you're doing. And finally, just to note that grantees will be the grantees who are accepted will be invited to participate in additional learning and capacity building activities facilitated by the Colorado Media Project and CoLab. Those might include things like the Maynard training we did last year for organizations just starting their DEI journey, and other kinds of capacity building needs as identified. And you'll be invited to share your project progress and learning at a grantee convening plan for the fall of 2023, much in the vein of the September convening we just hosted. Details on the application process. Eligible applicants should apply via the grants portal at the Rose Community Foundation. They're our fiscal sponsor, and I will drop a link to that in the chat. The deadline to apply is 5 p.m. Mountain Time on Thursday, December 1st. For current grantees, that's also your deadline for that final report. Please note that if you are not yet a current member of the Colorado Press Association or Colorado News Collaborative, CoLab, thank you, no worries. If you're not yet a CPA or CoLab member, you must apply for membership by December 1st, 2022 as well to be eligible for funding. Note that the application, in addition to your project description and details, includes a short rounds of questions about your news organization's current audience, revenue, and staffing levels to gain a baseline among participants and track program impact year over year. We really appreciate you helping us get a better sense of what's going on at the ecosystem level by providing that information. So what are we looking for in the applications you're going to be submitting? These are the review criteria that we'll be using, sort of giving to our review committee as they read through your applications. We look for the following 4 things. First is the quality of the project plan. You want your project to exhibit clear objectives, a realistic time frame, strong buy-in from leadership and partners, and a project that is properly scaled and sustainable for the organization that's going to be leading or supporting it. We look at the potential impact of funding. What will the project achieve within your organization and or the community you serve if it's well executed? And we really do look to tailor the amount of our grant support to your ability to execute on that, as described in the proposal. Well, sorry, let me go back. We really look for the potential for learning. We recognize that Colorado news ecosystem is sort of at the cutting edge of a lot of work on what the future of local news looks like and how it can be done. So we encourage projects that are unique, that are experimenting with things or testing or producing some original learning for the field to be shared amongst other newsrooms, or for producing learning for yourself, your organization, or the community you serve. And finally, we look for organizational uniqueness and fit for the grant opportunity. Who's applying and leading this organization? We look for organizations that play some sort of unique role in the state's information ecosystem and exhibit a strong commitment to advancing equity and serving the communities that are your audiences. Walk quickly through the timeline. The application opened October 20th. We are in the middle of our information session today on November 3rd. We will send out a deadline reminder automated through the portal if you've already created a draft application and through the CMP mailing list. And let me drop a chat link in if you need to register for that. It's relatively easy. It's the first thing that comes up when you land on our website, but this is for mailing list registration. And applications are due Thursday, December 1st by 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Then, once your applications are in our hands, this is the timeline we'll go through. We aim to gather a review committee, process the applications, and make our decisions, and send out notifications to all of our applicants by Friday, January 6th. If your proposal has been accepted, we ask that you join a virtual grantee welcome meeting on Thursday, January 12th. That'll be from 2 to 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Pending your signing of contracts that will be distributed through the Rose Community Foundation portal, we will be dispersing the grant funds by January 20th, 2023. And then throughout the year, there will be a couple of check-in, learning, and support requirements. We'll schedule midterm grantee interviews with myself and/or Melissa, hopefully both of us if we're available, in June of 2023 to check in with our grantees and sort of get an update on how the projects are going, what you're learning, what challenges you're finding, and if there's anything additional we can do to support you. We will have our grantee convening in the fall of 2023, where grantees will have the opportunity to share what they're learning, what they've achieved, and what they hope to build on this work. And your final reports will be due December 1st, 2023, with all project funding needing to be expended by December 31st, 2023. These funds are for the year of 2023, and you must expend them by the end of that year. And again, you can find full details on, let me find this link as well for you, on our website, and I'll drop a direct link to this opportunity page. Here. This is also the page, this is an important link. Here you can find both our the application link to the Rose Community Portal, and later this afternoon I will be uploading both this PowerPoint deck and the recording of this Zoom meeting to this page as well. So that's sort of your point of reference for all information about advancing equity in local news grants. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can find me at sam@coloradomediaproject.com. If you need questions for me about project design, project fit, any general questions about the campaign or the Colorado Media Project, if you need technical assistance in completing your grant application, please contact Kelly Costello.
Hi.
Costello. Hello. He is going to be your point person for navigating any technical challenges you have with the Rose Community Foundation portal and grant application. I can answer some questions, but he's able to sort of log in and look at what you're seeing, which makes him much better at that. The last thing I'll say is if you are interested in having a one-on-one conversation with me to discuss any details or answer any questions specific to your application, I'm going to drop my Calendly link in the chat. You can also find it in my email signature, and it will again be posted on that landing page. Feel free to schedule a half-hour Zoom call with me at your convenience earlier in the month of November is much better, as my time will get more crunched towards the deadline. I would love to talk through your project, answer any questions, and help you brainstorm on how you might best use these funds. Thank you all so much for your time here. I'm going to pause the screen share so I can see your faces, and open it up for questions. There we go. Diana, I see a hand raised.
Okay, here I am. I'm okay.
There you are.
Okay,
Yes, you're
sorry
good.
about that. Yeah.
Totally fine.
Yeah, my name is Diana Furmansky. I'm a little confused about when freelancers would apply for this. What is, if you know it, what is their portion and what goes to the hosting publication?
That would be up to, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So Diana, this grant opportunity, you have to have a partnership already established with a news organization. And so that would be, really up to your relationship with them about how you're managing that. So it's not, really yeah. So does that answer your question?
Hold on, let's see. Am I still on mute? Thanks. So that means that any amount that they get, you work out with them how much would go to pay the writer for the story.
Yeah, like you wouldn't be able to apply as an individual freelancer.
Sure. Right.
Yeah, so you would just, work that out kind of and then submit the project plan, with the project budget indicating that there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mark Winston.
Yes, thank you. So my question is fairly specific to my organization, Free Speech TV. We're Denver-based and have a national broadcast footprint. We want to build out and sort of nurture Denver-specific content and community relationships. So I guess my question is, do we actually qualify as serving Denver communities?
I will be honest, we are, this is a competitive grant opportunity, and, newsrooms that are currently serving a hyper-local audience are better positioned, I think, to get the funding. We have had, as Sam indicated, a number of national groups kind of applying through this funding, and the conversation among the reviewers is often, do they already have a local audience? Is this because the intent of it is really to serve hyper local audiences here in Colorado. So it's probably not the best opportunity for someone who's a national group trying to establish one, just to be honest.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we do have a Denver presence and some level of programming, but it's, again, it is a national organization. So yeah, I get you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I will try to be as kind of frank as possible, since we've been through one of these rounds of funding and we kind of hear the questions that come in and the decisions we have to make. So thank you for understanding.
Appreciate that.
All right, Quan Atlas.
Hey everybody. So a couple questions. One, could I get the slides emailed to me so I can access some of those links a little bit easier? I'm kind of moving around. And then two, I was interested in, is this to fund journalistic projects or operational projects, say like a development project that could increase the sustainability of a newspaper like the Five Points Atlas, or something like that? And then the last question is, what kind of financial documentation would need to be turned over for an organization like this?
So hey, Kwan, thanks for coming. Yeah, so we definitely, for the third priority, we are interested in supporting the sustainability, particularly of news organizations that are led by people of color. So I would say yes, that would probably qualify for, depending on the details of what you're thinking about. And then for the financial question, Sam, I believe we ask for the last 2 years of financials and that closed financials, and then the current years, like year to date,
That is correct.
revenue and expenses. And then we also, because we are giving grants to quite a few for-profit organizations that are, on the smaller side and locally owned or operated. We do require, this is a project grant, so it is required to have like a project budget. So, how you'll actually spend these funds. And as Sam mentioned, what that looks like in the context of your broader project or your broader organization.
Okay, and then and then if it's a newer organization that maybe doesn't have 2 years taxes, is that what you're looking for, or is it just like P&Ls for stuff like that for as long as possible?
Yeah, we for however long you've been in existence, I guess if it's less than 2 years, just the last year would be fine. Whatever you think is helpful to kind of show your kind of track record of financial responsibility. I mean, that's really what we're just looking for, is just seeing how the business is being run. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome.
And Kwan, if you'll drop your email in the chat, I can send you the slide deck.
And we'll set the slide deck around to everyone afterwards. If you as long as you registered, you'll get it. So.
Perfect. That sounds great. Diana, I see your hand is still up. You have a follow-up question? And if not, we'll go to Erica, but Diana first.
Yeah, a follow-up question. Melissa mentioned hyper-local, and I know that refers to the audience of the publication, but in terms of the subject of the story, would it help if that had national or statewide implications affecting not just one community, but perhaps others in the state?
The purpose of this grant is not necessarily to just support coverage of a topic, if that makes sense. It's really maybe, like, it's hard to say. Like, we'd love to maybe chat with you offline and think through your ideas, because that might just be helpful in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Erica.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. And it was really helpful to have some of the examples of the type of thing you're looking for. And I was wondering if you have any examples of this would not be a good fit, don't come with this kind of project.
Yeah, I mean, I just mentioned something about coverage. It's not necessarily like I think the middle priority, we try to segment these into kind of clear priorities. The first one is really about the internal and things you're doing internally to increase your own newsroom's capacity to cover and to interact with communities of color. The second one is kind of broad. So like, I think, some things that we've gotten that maybe weren't the best fit would be like, just coverage of a specific community without any real kind of more robust plan to like get to know that community, just saying that we want to cover, we know there's Spanish speakers in our area and we want to cover Spanish speakers with really, we're kind of more looking for things that are, getting to know the building bridges between newsrooms and the communities that they serve, and addressing the news needs of those communities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's not to say that we haven't, given some small amounts of funding for newsrooms that are trying to get, and this is actually trying to encourage, newsrooms to get to know other, underrepresented and underserved communities. And so coverage is one way to do that. But like I said, I think the goal of it is to really, get folks thinking about it as a deeper level than just saying like, let's have a series of articles about a community. So, Judy, you have a question?
Hi, I'm from a nonprofit organization that's promoting ethnic and cultural diversity in Loveland.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm unclear, do we need to identify a newsroom in our community as the lead applicant? Or are nonprofits able to apply on their own?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is a tough one. These are really for newsrooms as lead applicants. We really encourage community partnerships, Judy. So we would love to, maybe chat with you offline about your ideas, or maybe, make introductions if you don't have those connections yet. But, we know that there are a lot of other grants out there for nonprofits, and, there's a very small amount of funding out there for journalism entities or existing newsrooms. And so we really do need to keep this opportunity targeted at the primary grantee would be a news organization.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Quan, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes. With the review team and the way you guys review the applications, is this a sort of all or nothing type of thing, or if you presented, several different options, would you get sort of like feedback of, well, we will fund this part, and then you get this level of grant, or hey, we'll fund half of this? Is that kind of what happens with these, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I can answer that just because last year it was a really very competitive field. And I think, of course, I don't think anyone, because we said that you could apply for 5 to 25,000. I think there were only a handful of people who applied for anything less than 25,000. So we did, in order to kind of have more funding to go around, we didn't fund everyone at 25. And so at 25K, so there were some kind of conversations then with applicants to say, hey, we couldn't fund the entire proposal, but we could do this much, and how would you adjust your scope accordingly if needed? Some people would adjusted their scope, and some said, you know what, I'll just dip into my other organizational funds to do the whole project. So but we do have that conversation because we recognize that, especially with these project grants, sometimes if you don't get the grant, you can't do the project. So we kind of make that a conversation, and that's why there's a bit of time in December before we actually make the awards, because we do sometimes have to do a bit of more due diligence and conversation with applicants.
And I'll also say that, that opportunity to schedule a call with me in November and talk through some of those options is a great thing to take advantage of before you go to the work of writing them all down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
David.
Oh, go ahead, David. Sorry.
I was wondering, could you explain what you mean by funding leadership transitions? I looked at the past funded projects and didn't see any that fit that criteria.
So that's a good question. So we know that there are a lot of newsrooms that are having kind of business transitions, transitioning to nonprofit, combining with other newsrooms, selling and or whatnot. And so we wanted to kind of keep that door open. It's primarily for communities, newsrooms that are led by people of color. So it's not just kind of an open call, but so it's really to kind of facilitate and support leadership and ownership among communities of color, just if that makes sense.
Yes.
It does, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Judy, do you have a follow-up?
No, sorry.
No worries.
I saw a question from Renata in the chat. Renata, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know if this would be a good time for now or offline, but so I am fiscally sponsored by Local Media Foundation, and they tend, or I should say, sometimes can be fussy about certain requirements, and the project needs to benefit them too, generally. So can you talk a little bit more about any requirements for fiscally sponsored orgs, or would that be better offline? Thank you.
Special requirements, Renata? Like we don't
Well,
have any,
yeah, it depends. It depends on what the requirements are as to whether they would allow me to participate. So I guess I would need to show them the slide deck, obviously, but I'm wondering if there's any other details about requirements that I could show them that might sway them.
So we don't have, I mean, the requirements are, a midterm grantee check-in, a final report. We highly, strongly encourage participation in the grantee convening, that we do. And then, just execution of the project that you said you were going to do. So that's really the only requirements.
I guess a related question would be, since the funds would go through my fiscal sponsor and they would take their percentage out, is that acceptable to the grantors?
Yes, yeah, we recognize that the fiscally sponsored projects would have to have, a fiscal sponsor fee or whatnot. I don't think we have publicly stated what the maximum of that would be, but I know that, like, for example, some universities take a very large fee, and we'd probably limit that. We haven't publicized that yet, but we haven't encountered it. So.
Okay, thank you.
What else? What else can we answer? Not a question. Let's see. All right, well, if we don't have any more questions, I think we can let you all go early. But if anyone wants to stick around and has questions they wanted to chat about offline or online, as the case may be, we'll stick around for a couple minutes until everyone's left. So if you want to talk with us after, you can stay on. Thanks everyone for coming.
Sounds good. Have a good morning.